Hi everyone, welcome to Grow with Mo, a personal development channel helping you adults one video at a time. Today I have my good friend Kolade with me, and we're going to be talking about transitioning from 9 to 5 life to entrepreneurship. Basically, he's a startup founder and he's going to be sharing his experience with us. A cherry on top of that is he was an international student in the US. So for my F1 folks, I always have you guys in mind. Hopefully, you get to learn a lot. Kolade, would you mind introducing yourself?
Absolutely. Name is Kolade Adekoya. Some of these might know me as Bank. That's my middle name. And I'm the founder of Jump the Line. It's a guest management platform for event organizers and venues to sell their tickets and offer their own fast pass.
Nice, very cool. So I'm curious to know how you kind of made your journey. Let's jump to you came to the US to go to school, what you studied and all of that, and how you kind of started into how you started your 9 to 5 work.
Yeah, absolutely. So I moved end of 2011, moved here from the UK, and I came to study film.
Hmm.
My first degree was computing technology, and I lied to my dad that I wanted to study something in computer again when I was doing film. So I came here solely for that because I was like, where else can you best study film in the world? And
Mm-hmm.
America was it. My dad already paid for NYFA, New York Film Academy, without even knowing that
What he paid for?
what he paid
Wow.
for. $80,000, crazy stuff.
Oh,
And asking people that went to that school, and it was like, hey, you're going to do a lot of theory for the next 2 years. And I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. And I went to Google and I found Colorado Film School, and that's how I ended up in Colorado.
wow, that's amazing. So I'm not going to dig deep into your film background, which is very interesting, but not for today, maybe some other time.
Mhm.
But I'm curious to know from 9 to 5. I always wonder what makes people want to just leave their 9 to 5 and the stability and security that comes with that to going into entrepreneurship. Like, have you always wanted to be a startup founder?
Yeah, absolutely. Like all my friends would say, as far back as 2014, 2015, the only thing I always talk about is founding my own company
Hmm.
because I saw that process with my parents, my dad especially,
Okay.
and just being a part of that critical process of like writing documentation for government contracts and
Mm.
building visual stuff just to be able to win like a $1 million contract stuff. And so that really intrigued me. And I was like, I feel like I want to do this for myself.
That's nice. Um, as an international student, right? Like, well, I was an international student. I know there's always this fear of like sometimes the only thing connecting you to the US is your job, right?
Right.
And it's hard even after you know your immigration is not tied to your job anymore. It's still hard kind of coming out of that mindset.
Yeah.
How did you get to the point where you're like, you know what? I think I have first money, enough money and enough security to like say I'm done with 9 to 5 and I'm going to go into the like murky waters of entrepreneurship.
So for me, I'm a very risky person. Every good thing I've
O'Shea
achieved
Bobrisky.
has come from being very risky. So
Mm,
when I left my 9 to 5 first, they were increasing my pay to
okay.
almost like 200 grand a
Wow.
year. And but the condition was I had to move back to Denver after just moving to the Bay.
Mm,
And I was like, I'm not gonna do that. And I prayed about it and I was like, God, I want to build this company. I
right.
need money on the side. If this is what I'm meant to do, like just show me the next direction. I just didn't feel good
Mm,
after saying that prayer. I was like, I moved to the Bay for a reason. I'm not gonna move back.
right.
And it was very scary. I saved not so much because I was still spending on my startup. And I was
Hmm.
like, whatever happens from here, I'll just take it. So it was very risky for me. There was no structured way of I'm leaving my 9 to 5. I'm going to build this thing. I have 6 months saved or 1 year
Hmm.
saved. So I had to go to some deep waters to keep myself afloat.
Wow, that's very crazy. I admire I admire that. I wish that could be me. So starting your what's it like? What's the process of starting a company like? Like, did you have a business plan, or you just like it was vibes and inshallah for you?
Vibes and God is good. To be honest, like I played around with different ideas,
Hmm.
even ones that could work on the continent.
Mm,
And I just felt like I was looking for validation from friends, but
mm,
truthfully they didn't understand how my brain was wired to think as an entrepreneur, and just do things that people wouldn't be bold to do. And I would go into friends and I'll be like, why is the time displaying like this? I feel like if it display in a
mm.
better
So
way. So I was
curiosity was like a
Yes, I
major
was very,
thing.
very curious. And
Mm,
what triggered me to just do it was um I came up with an idea of why do you go into dealerships and spend 4 or 5 hours trying to fill out paperwork, right? When you can, I feel like you should be able to do it with technology. And my friends were like, "This is stupid. Nobody would let you do that. The government would not even allow you to do that." And then 5 months later, Kavana came out. It was crazy, and I was like, "This is exactly my idea." And everyone could now get a car before they got into the dealership.
wow.
And so that was a wake up call for me.
Wow, that's interesting. So, can you tell us a little bit about your startup right now and how did you come to the conclusion that it was going to be a great like company to start?
Did I know it was going to be a great company? I didn't know,
Mm,
and I feel like greatness is still we're still on the path
to
to
greatness.
that. But for me, it was just I wanted to do something difficult. I was already doing some other ideas, literally built,
Mm,
and on the day I wanted to launch during the pandemic, I was like, this idea is not even hard enough. Not
wow.
knowing that I'm putting myself in the hardest thing is like, how do you build a concept that doesn't really exist and make
Right.
people connect to that?
Mm,
And the way we started was for you to go to social places and not wait in lines. And up to today, there's still like some pushbacks around that, and we're having to make people understand that it's not even the whole idea of like you just going to skip a line. It's like people having the option to buy back their time,
mm-hmm.
and identifying who your loyal customers is and stuff like that. So it was really something I faced when I first moved to the US,
Right.
customer service problem. And I was like, customer service should start from the door and beyond. And that just
Mm,
came with a set of other problems like why are we forced to stand in lines?
mm-hmm.
What if we can have options that helps like people just like buy back their time really?
Right, right. Wow, that makes a lot of sense. I like the fact that, a lot of common themes with founders that I've seen is just that curiosity and a very strong desire to solve problems
Yeah.
and make people's lives easier. So I appreciate that you guys are constantly always thinking about that. So let's talk about what it's like for you mentally and emotionally. Because I'm very, very like I care a lot about people's emotional well-being, and I know that like 9 to 5 has its challenges, but like being an entrepreneur also has its challenges. So like we talked about money, getting funding and all of
Yeah.
that. Can you share a little bit of how you cope like with the ups and downs of that world?
To be honest, every day I still go through it. I feel like I used to be the happiest guy in the room, but
Mm,
since I started building a startup, I could be in one zone right now and my head is thinking 100 miles and I'm like, oh
yeah,
my God, and start overthinking. But I've just really started to build community of fellow founders that are going through exactly what I'm going
right.
through
To get
and saying
support.
that there's a commonality here, right? We're all going through the same thing.
Mm,
And so when I wake up in the morning, I feel like going back to sleep and putting my head in my pillow. I
yeah.
just call some friends and vent. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
dude, this is what I'm going through. And you like, can you just listen to
Can
me?
right
And then
like
sometimes before leaving that call, they share what they're going through. I'm like, I
I'm
thought I
not
was going through
alone.
that. You're going through the same thing, and we kind
Yeah,
of like just bond over that.
that's good.
Yeah, it's an ongoing thing that we're all having to deal with as
Yeah, I
founders.
think community and support is like one of the best things that you can build for yourself, and it's
Absolutely.
great that you have that already. Another thing I'm curious about is there's so many startups right now. Like it's almost like it's a pandemic. Everybody wants to start something up. How do you set yourself apart? Like, so there's a small amount of investors compared to founders, I think.
Yeah.
So how do you set yourself apart to stand out and say, okay, this is what what is why you should invest in my company?
Absolutely. So my company and my idea is still something we're pushing that this should be existent in the world.
Mm,
And so there's so many startups, like you mentioned, that are coming to do different things. And what keeps me going, whether anyone invests in my company or not, is I think this should exist. Like people should be able to go to these social places and have an option not to stand in line,
Right.
or what we're doing in the world of ticketing, these things should be done in a different manner. And
Right.
for that, it's a propelling engine for us internally, and as we even speak to investors.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that I take challenges and I want to like show that I'm up to any
Up to
task,
task, right?
and just generating revenue,
Mm.
building great customer service for the people that work with us is one of the ways I've just been using. I tell investors, by this time last year, I wasn't making $1.
Mm.
Now I'm doing some revenue every month. It's growing.
Right.
Now people are showing interest in what I'm doing. That seems like I'm doing something
How
right.
big is your company now in revenue?
We're doing like last month we did $60,000 in revenue.
Wow. Wow.
Small,
Yeah,
but we
but
keep growing, and the goal is like every month just to improve that metric.
that's amazing. Is there any legal implications for starting a business or, founding a company? Like what's the legal aspect of it?
So I think if you're going into a domain, understanding that domain, like just from the outside eyes, is
Mm.
always the first step. And for me, I never go into building a company without sitting down with a lawyer.
Right.
So for us, I wanted to understand, how does this seem when people go to a venue and they have access to skip along the line? Will people look at it from like, this is bias, or this is
Right.
like just doesn't make sense? And when I sat down with like our lawyer, he
Mm.
was like, no, as long as it's done in a fair way, everybody has access to that, everybody can do it, and
Mm.
it doesn't segregate people. That was like the biggest thing for us. So I think every business would have its own legal constraints. Just sitting down with a legal person to
Is
understand
important.
what you can do, what you
What
can't
you
do is
can
always
do.
the way
Like
to go.
always have a lawyer on retainer, just just in
Yeah.
case.
I call my lawyer, I'm like, I'm about to do this. Can we? And it's like, no,
Okay.
don't.
Especially
Or
we've been in the US, like you
yeah,
can get sued anytime.
yeah.
Like
So it's like something I'm constantly thinking about. Even bringing an intern in the state of California is like, you cannot bring someone to work for free for you.
right,
So we have
right,
to think of creative ways to incentivize them
right.
to where it seems like they're paid and
Mm-hmm.
they're not being used as free
As
labor.
free labor. Wow, that's crazy. So, are there other lessons that you've learned along the way of being a founder that you think it's important to share?
Like if you believe something, just keep chasing.
Mm.
That is like nobody will believe it as much as you do. That's the most important thing. Is like we're here and we're still like, this thing makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
We've done a lot of trials. It does make sense from a numbers perspective, from how people are wired. Like I have a lot of people just be like, dude, when is your app gonna be here? When is your app gonna be there? There's a lot of demand and we have data to show that.
Mm.
But some of these venues that we work with, they're still wired in a traditional way. And it's like, no, just to make it not inclusive for everybody. So for me, I just keep telling myself that Uber wasn't a thing before, Airbnb, like they were
Mm-hmm.
new formed behaviors for society.
Right,
It's
right.
like, how can we get to that point as well where it's like this feels normal and natural? So the key learnings for me is like, believe in what you're doing and just
Mm.
keep fighting for it, and network, meet
Network,
people,
yeah.
network. It's
Mm.
like the 1,000 thing you have to like keep
Keep
repeating.
reiterating,
Yeah.
yeah. Was there any point on this journey where you're just like, maybe I should go and ask for my job back, my 9 to 5?
Because I'm a stubborn person, and I just the way 9 to 5 was structured for me, if something wasn't going wrong, I'll be the first to say this is a cultural misalignment, or this is not a mutual fit for me.
Mm-hmm.
I was just always questioning a lot of things in 9 to 5, and to the
Right,
point where they'd be like, dude, like you call out everything,
right,
and that's
right.
just my nature. So I've never really wanted to go back because I'm not wired like that. But there are days when I'm like, damn, my account is on red. Let me go and beg for money,
Like for
literally.
money, yeah.
It's
Wow.
like that a lot of times.
That's crazy. But this has been great, Kolade. Are there any other things that you think it's important to share with anyone trying to become a founder? Especially like I'm very passionate about international students in the US because I feel like there's been so many obstacles in our way and we're very resilient,
Hmm.
and like finding ourselves in a space where we can start a company and gather investors and all
Yeah.
of that, it's a big deal. So I'm very happy that you've you've had that journey, and if there's any like nuggets that you think would be helpful.
The nugget is like people would not understand you what you're trying to build. So just believe in that thing,
Mm,
validate that idea. If it makes sense, fight for it. And one of the ways I've had to fight was leaving my comfort. I was living in Denver, Colorado, and damn, life was so good.
yeah.
And it's like for me to get to this next stage of my life, I had to leave all of those things behind,
Comfort zone.
sacrifice because I believe in it. And
Delayed gratification.
yeah, and when you believe in something and you can fight for it all the way, people will see that. And
Right.
it starts to in itself unlock certain doors
True.
and just network.
Network,
And
yeah.
don't be afraid to try and learn. I don't call it failures, it's like learn. And if it doesn't work, you just know that this thing doesn't work and you try another approach.
Okay,
And just
that's
keep going,
great.
keep going.
That's awesome. Thank you guys for listening. Don't forget to thumbs up and subscribe. You guys should not forget to subscribe because that's the only way we can actually like get this video to more people. So Kolade is also a musician. In case you guys are wondering, he's very multifaceted and multi-talented. So would you like people to like find you? Any handles you want to drop?
Absolutely. Instagram is bvnk underscore official. I make music. I'm an all-round creative, videos, all of that good stuff, and just building a company, being myself along the way while doing that. And y'all should watch this amazing host content. Don't see her in person and be saying this is nice, that is nice. Like the way to let her know is nice, and not really just for I alone, just for people to discover great content. Drop your
Exactly.
comment, ask questions. She's gonna answer you every time.
Thank you. Exactly what he said. Thank you so much, Kolade. This was great. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to him on Instagram.
And Twitter as well.
Oh, and Twitter.
Same
Yes.
handle.
Alrighty. Bye, guys.